Everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar. My name is Hannah Matevia, and I am the Programming and Communications Manager at GrowFL. If you're not familiar with GrowFL, our main mission is to provide strategies, resources, and support to second stage companies. Normally, we do this in a few different ways, like peer learning events, leadership development opportunities, like the webinar you're on today, and our system integrated growth program. Now, of course, like many of you, in the recent events, we've had to pivot from our usual way of doing things. So as we're still committed to providing second stage companies with the information they need, we've created our Business Resource Center, which is a central hub for statewide and county-specific information. Here you can find things like SBA loan information, other upcoming webinars in our COVID-19 series, and resources from our trusted GrowFL experts on things like finance, sales, HR, disaster recovery, and more. We're also offering a Connect with an Expert where you can explain your area of concern, schedule a 30-minute phone call, and then we'll immediately get you connected to an expert in our own database that can help to guide you through the challenges you're facing. Next slide, Robert. We're also beginning our GrowFL Perspective virtual roundtables. These are virtual meetings which are with a group of 15 fellow CEOs who can act as a soundboard for anything you're facing as a business owner right now. These meetings will be facilitated by the Edward Lowe Foundation, which is a national entrepreneurship foundation and a great partner of ours. The meetings will be held once a month for the next 3 months. However, we also understand that the problems you may be facing today could be different than the problems you'll face tomorrow or even next week. So between each monthly meeting, we can offer additional sessions which will be dictated by the roundtable members. So for instance, if roundtable members are facing challenges in human resources, we'll bring in someone specifically in HR, like Robert, for an added session. So our main goal with these roundtables is to get you into a group of fellow peers for support so that you know you're not out here as a business owner alone in your challenges, and we can help get your immediate needs answered. So these are also closed meetings, and what you discuss is confidential. The Edward Lowe Foundation will facilitate them in a way that everyone has an opportunity to speak. All we ask from you is a commitment to participate on each of the calls. And when we do create the group of 15, we make sure there are no competitors in the group. So we're really excited about the program, and registration is now open. So if you're interested, I encourage you to visit our website to apply. So like I said, check out our website, see where we can be of service to you and help you as a business owner. That's our general contact link on our website, but I did include my personal contact there as well. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out. I'm here to help you with whatever I can. So before we begin, just a few last minute housekeeping things. Later this afternoon, I'll send out a follow-up email with the recording of the webinar, the slide deck, all of the presenters' contact information, and any other links or resources that were mentioned. If you have any questions or comments during the webinar, please submit them in the chat section of your screen. And our next webinar in our COVID-19 series will be Thursday, April 2nd. This will be at 7 p.m. And it's Leading Through the Chaos, which will be presented by Traction in Florida. And all of our, the registration info will be on our website, and I'll include it in the follow-up email as well. So with that, I will introduce our panel moderator, Robert Newland. Robert is CEO of Newland Associates, a predictive index certified firm with offices throughout Florida. His team specializes in HR consulting, recruitment, and outplacement services with a focus on aligning talent strategy with business strategy. He is on the board of advisors of GrowFL, among other nonprofit and trade organizations. So with that, Robert, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hannah, and good morning, everybody. Great to be here. Let me first, hats off or tip, the hats to GrowFL for what they're doing for second stage companies. I can't think of a better organization that takes better care of second stage companies across the state, and that's a wonderful thing. I also want to thank the panelists that are here today. We pulled this together from this week to last week very quickly because we understand that there is a need to address this. And so thank you all for being a part of this. And with that, I want to introduce some of our panelists, well, all of them actually. The first one is Kelly Hill, CEO of Sales Advisors of Florida. If you need not just sales support, but if you will, an outside chief sales officer, her firm can do that for organizations. And I've met Kelly through GrowFL, and she's just, amazing. And I'm happy to have a fellow Board of Advisor member here with me today. Keith Cocker, president of Orland Tech, he is not just an expert in IT. His firm is a managed service provider for IT services here in Orlando with a fairly significant operation. Keith and I, together with Russell, are together on a CeoNexus peer group, and I have to say, Keith scares me every month with all the stuff that's going on that you wouldn't otherwise know. So I think he's going to be a world of knowledge for us today to understand some of the challenges that we encounter from a tech standpoint. Next one is Joe Nardelli, CMO of Newland Associates. Joe is our fractional CMO. He provides, chief marketing officer services to us and to other organizations as well. And not only have I learned a lot from Joe in the past year that we've been working together, but I think his insight in terms of what to do around marketing and communications for all the companies or entities that are here today is also going to be really, really great. And then lastly, Russell Slappy, CEO of In Perspective CFO and Strategic Services. I've known Russell for quite a while, and he's just a wealth of knowledge in the finance and accounting space. We're also together in the CeoNexus peer group, so I get to see him every month, and I know he's been doing a lot with his clients. You're probably going to hear a lot from him today. And you know what? With that in mind, let's begin with you, Russell. Managing cash flow seems to be, the talk of town, the most important things. And I want to put a slide that you have for the audience, and can you tell us more about that?
Well, yeah, one of the biggest things we see, even in good times, is when we go into clients, a lot of them don't have a 13-week cash flow forecast. And unfortunately, this is not the time to start building one, but you better get to it. These are troubled times. Cash flow is going to get tight. I'm seeing all kinds of challenges in multiple industries, from even the industries that didn't think they were going to get hit or taking an impact. And one of the biggest tools we create for clients, and almost every client we have, is a 13-week cash flow forecast. And now, of course, is the time when it's needed the most. What you see on the screen is, a depiction of a summary piece of a dynamic cash flow forecast. And the idea is to build this tool where you can change the fluctuating incoming customer deposits, and also the expense variables that you got to start working on. And what I want to do, just because we're short on time today, is kind of jump right into some thoughts to work on your cash flow forecast. We've all, many of my clients last week, we had to go through layoffs and anticipate and project what we think we need to do to create cost reductions. Layoffs, of course, the first target, but don't forget to disconnect your auto pays. You don't want money flowing automatically out of your bank from vendors and banks, et cetera. You want to be able to pick and choose your essential vendors and material suppliers, et cetera. So make sure you disconnect your auto pay so you can negotiate with everybody. Identify your expenses and rank them from most important to least important. Think through things like, look for relief from certain parties, utilities, insurance, banks. Banks are offering 90-day payment relief programs. So first thing you want to do too, outside of figuring out your layoffs, if you're doing them, is reaching out to your local banker that's working with you, your commercial banker, your landlord, your insurance agent. Cutting back after you do layoffs, make sure you communicate with your general liability insurance. It's usually based on sales and employee count, so you can reduce your insurance. Don't forget to go through your discretionary expenses like advertising. You might not be getting the bang for your buck that you used to get, so you might want to reduce some of those expenses as well. So it's all about kind of going through from top to bottom, categorizing your expenses and going through with your team where you can make some cuts that are efficient. But this cash flow forecast will help you predict after those cuts, with the fluctuation in sales, where you're probably going to have to reduce sales, many of us are, and deposits, what it'll look like. And from there, as you can see on the screen, this should help you identify your your points in time where you're going to get tight on cash, do you need to find sources of funding, which we're going to talk about in another moment? You know, what do I need to do? Do I need to do more? Did I not do enough? So it's all about planning, and this is a tool that helps you plan. And I think that's really it. You got to plan.
Russell, I want to, you mentioned a couple of things that, one, I want to touch upon, which is layouts, and then I probably want to go to Kelly and Joe about sales and about, you know, advertising, marketing. So first, let me talk a little bit about layouts, and everybody is going through them, and my piece of advice to everybody is share with people ahead of time what you're thinking. There was a really great interview last night on ABC. I actually put it on my phone about a lady who just got laid off, and she posted it online, and she says, you know, I went to the office and I just got laid off, and it just happened. They didn't tell me anything. They didn't, you know, let me prepare for it. While I know that they were planning, there was not a single word ahead of time. So if you need to do layouts, some of the things that I suggest you do is have an open discussion with your personnel, with your staff. Just because you're not talking about it, it doesn't mean they're not thinking about it. So if they are thinking about it and you're not addressing it, it's causing angst. And if it is, that's going to have an impact on the work that they're doing. So if you're on a critical service, that the quality of work depends on it, that could be detrimental to the output of a product. So those are some of the things you want to think about if you're going to do layoffs. Later on, we're going to talk a little bit more about why maybe you want to hold up on the layoffs if you want, if you can, because of some new legislation that came out. But, you know, before we do that, Kelly, I want to go to sales and, you know, should we be, you know, laying off people? But before we do that, I want to launch a poll that maybe you can, you know, provide feedback on it, which is, I hope everybody can see, you know, how are your sales at this point, right? Are they down? Are they the same? Are they up? And so let's give everybody maybe 30 seconds. And if you want to start framing this discussion, Kelly, when they finish the poll, and then we can put it up on the screen, you can talk about it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Robert. So yeah, that is the question, right? So sales are at a standstill. Hopefully there's some residual business coming in, but you know, the gut reaction is to lay off your sales team. And quite frankly, none of us knows when the recovery is going to happen, but when it does happen, if your business is viable and it's going to survive this, you have to be prepared to really react quickly to a recovery, and you can't do that without a sales team. It'll take 3 to 6 months if you lay off your sales team to get everybody back on board and refocus. So if you can, at all possible, keep your high performers, even if you have to change their comp plans or reduce their compensation packages, repurpose those people, get them focused on gathering competitive information, because of course we know you're going to see some changes. All of us are going to see changes to our competitors. Getting that all-important customer intel, so taking the pulse of the customer and their health, and then gathering information on changing customer behavior. So you can repurpose the people that you do intend to keep, and those would be your high performers. And then I guess I'd say the other consideration here is this is a time to assess your team. And if you do want to let go of some people that aren't necessarily your high performers, we're going to see a lot of great talent come onto the market that wasn't available in the last couple of years because of the tight labor situation. So you can really upgrade your sales team as we come through the recovery by taking advantage of some of those resources.
Can you see the poll results, Kelly? Can you comment on them? Are you surprised? Does it seem like what you're hearing from clients?
Yeah, you know, I'm not surprised. I think this is universally affecting most businesses. The businesses that are showing sales up obviously are businesses that support healthcare, probably are supporting, you know, any essential business out there. The business that are that are the same are probably your subscription services, which will continue to you know, see results throughout a downturn. The sales that are down are of course all of us that are in this environment today. So the question is just how long is it going to last? I personally, and I'd love to hear the opinion of the panel, but I think it's going to be a relatively uneven recovery. And I think we're going to see certain industries recover faster than others. And that's a part of thinking about your future and your sales as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Joe, what about you? I mean, so we talked a bit of, on the finance side, we talked about the HR side, we talked about a little bit on the sales side. What about marketing? I mean, Russell said, look at your advertising spend and maybe you want to bring that down. I'm sure you squirmed a little when you hit that, but I don't think this is wrong. You just need to repurpose. Can you tell us a little bit about, some practical tips in terms of what do you do when it comes to communicating with whether it's clients or prospects in this environment?
Yeah, sure. So businesses that rely on in-person communications to generate revenue, this could be a challenging time, right? Without that face-to-face communications. But now is the time to really try something new and think differently when you're out there trying to communicate with your clients or prospects. And what you'll find now is many companies are opening up their marketing and sales software as a service tools and resources at either reduced pricing or in some cases giving you free access to the entire platform. And if you're in sales, one that I encourage you to check out is called Loom.com, Loom.com. And instead of sending the same text-based emails or text-based LinkedIn messages to everyone, send out a video message instead. And what I like about Loom is it's so simple and easy to use, and you can record yourself and your computer screen and walk through a short demo or maybe provide a personal follow-up. And I think the key here is keep it short, 60 seconds or less. But when you come to communicating with your prospects, do something new, go digital, virtual events, video is an area you want to focus on. And in terms of advertising, right now is a great time to reach new prospects. And Facebook is offering $100 million in cash and grants, or cash grants and ad credits for small businesses. If you go to the website, you can sign up for that. Yelp is offering $25 million in the form of waived advertising fees and free advertising for products and services. So that's something that you can take advantage of. And the other thing that we're seeing is there's a lot more digital eyeballs out there, right? Online consumption of news and entertainment has really skyrocketed, and people are spending more time on social media. And when traffic is up, usually ad rates go up, but that's not the case in this point. You can really get in there at a very efficient cost per click.
I guess you've been checking up on my mom, who's in social media, seems like all the time now. She's done with Zumba at the Y because they closed. But no, that's really interesting information. And obviously, if you are in a business that can still operate, you can certainly look at this. And part of being able to still operate is going to be remote work. And I want to go to Keith about that in terms of some of the issues and dangers around remote work. But before we do that, I want to launch another poll about remote work and maybe Keith, once that is launching, you can start framing the conversation, but the poll is, do you have remote workers? And so
well, I can pretty much tell you without seeing the poll, it's going to be very large because we have several thousand that have already, employees that are working from home that we've been dealing with the last 2 to 3 weeks, just overloading our staff. Our ticket quantity has probably doubled and tripled certain days. So it's just been crazy with all the issues we've been dealing with. One thing we do recommend, if you're going to allow, employees to connect from their home devices, you should really set a policy for your the home users so that they have current antivirus and malware protection. And have them run the updated scans on them since they're going to be connecting to your corporate network. We also recommend that they have an up-to-date operating system like we've been preaching to all our business accounts. So if they're running Windows 7, which was end of life in January, it's now extremely vulnerable to let them be running that and the possibility of attacks and then getting into your corporate network. So you might want to look at even giving them a stipend to purchase an upgrade for their home systems and make sure they keep it updated. Same goes with all of their Office applications, their browsers, Adobe. Please have them go to all the update settings on their home machines if they're going to be using them. You're trying to block any type of vulnerability that the hackers can exploit at this time, and trust me, they're coming after you. Other things to consider, if your company's going to allow them to create like a VPN into their corporate network, which is basically a tunnel to allow them to access like map drives and other resources on your network. You really need to think about that, because you have no idea what they have on their home systems. For instance, they could have a keylogger. So when they do connect to your VPN, they could be capturing their username and password. And as soon as they get that, the hacker can do the same thing if you don't have multi-factor authentication turned on. So that's another thing you need to look at. Hopefully you have something like a remote desktop gateway, which will allow you to connect to like a terminal server at your office. We much rather you use those type of services. Probably a lot of you have Azure as well. So just protect those home PCs as much as you can. If you need a quick solution, we've recommended our clients go to My PC, affiliated with LogMeIn. You can just purchase it for each of your employees. They load an application on their work PC, and then they can access it from a web browser from their home and get access to their work PC. And it's a really quick solution to get a lot done quickly while you decide what you're going to do moving forward. And lastly, if you're bringing home your work devices and stuff, keep your family off of it, your kids. Please keep it locked when you're not at it. Set up a policy if they are going to use their home PCs. Might be a good time to get all those games and stuff all off of it and not let your kids use it for entertainment and stuff, because we need to keep these businesses protected. You want me to keep talking? You there, Robert?
I think Robert might be having a challenge with the audio for a moment. Why don't I jump into kind of the next topic? I saw in the chat that several people were curious on loans and what's out there. So why don't I just kind of jump down that? I think Robert's going to launch a poll on that as well. It's interesting to see, of course, we would figure a lot of people remote, but that only 13% are still in the home at the office. But regarding loans, and Robert's going to launch a poll. He's having a little bit of trouble in the audio. Probably the best news we got yesterday was the approval of the $2 trillion government package. And what does that mean? Well, unfortunately, we're not going to know a lot of those details for another day or two. It's going to take some dissemination of information to get those details. When the best thing I saw actually out of that, though, is they're going to allow the local banks to help process the loan applications. And I think that was a huge plus, a massive plus, because one of my biggest concerns as of last week, we had been applying for SBA loans and the Florida DEO loan, the bridge loan, and all the sites were crashing. The SBA site was down Wednesday, the complete day, I think. And I had only heard from one client that he had actually got a claim number from the SBA, but he wasn't through the whole process. So there's going to be relief out there. I think it's coming. I see somebody said it hasn't quite officially voted yet, and that's probably true. It keeps one more day here, but I think we're going to get some relief. My understanding is that relief might look like 2.5 times your monthly cash burn, meaning payroll, benefits, rent, utilities, and that might be what the cash flow, the calculation looks like. We'll know more as that gets approved, but I would caution people to, look at your cash flow, make sure you're not waiting for a hope. Some of the things to do to kind of jump back is reach out to your current bank. I'm in touch with all my clients, commercial bankers, asking them for relief. I have a big SBA loan with one client for $4.5 million. I think we're going to get relief by next week. Seacoast, we reached out to as an example. They said they're rolling out a 90-day relief program, and that's all loans, not just the mortgage. That's trucks, vehicles, etc. So I think we're going to get some relief from the banks directly. And then, there was some questions in a CEO group the other day about, one of the things you did in '08, you want to reach out to your local banker and, work with him. But if you have a line of credit, you want to pull it down. Cash is king. Pull it down into your operating account, whether you need it or not, and get ready. That way you have the available funds in your account in case things, God forbid, do get worse or what have you. Some of the things there's also, the SBA will clarify what's coming out here shortly and we'll all get a better understanding in the next couple of days. But there is also the Florida disaster loan. It's a $50,000 bridge up to $100,000 for special cases. They have not defined special cases where I could find it when we're doing these applications. For 2 to 100 employees, it's interest-free for up to 1 year. So that's good. I have applied for that, but we haven't heard anybody get accepted in my network as of yet. The SBA is up to $2 million, and the interest rates are under 4% for up to 30 years. So it's going to be a good package when it's finalized. But right now, unfortunately, for a couple clients, we actually went out and closed 2 MCA loans, which are merchant cash advances. And yes, these loans are very expensive, but there is money on the street for those types of loans. The interest rates are in the 35 to 45% range, which is a lot, I know, but as I said, cash is king, and I had a couple clients pull it because of the concern over waiting for the SBA funds to come in. So it is one way to generate working capital in this uncertain time.
Russell,
and then I would tell everybody.
Well, you
go
continue
ahead.
talking. I want to launch a poll relating to this, which is, do you need a cash injection? I'd love to hear from the audience. And yes, I'm back. There are some issues with all these collaboration tools because there are so many people using them. So I apologize for that. I am back. But Russell, I want to give it another 30 seconds and then we'll see the feedback from people in terms of what kind of cash they need.
Yeah, and actually, I was just going to say, let's not forget that in '08, we went through these challenging times in a lot of ways with the lending, and we did have to wait on the SBA loans. And I do think there is going to be a time frame, though the SBA loan said they're going to do some quick and dirty releases and then also have a second piece that's the larger amount. So we'll see what they come out with. But in the bad times, this is when ABL lending, asset-based lending, and factoring comes into play, and those lenders will be hot and heavy. And they also provide more availability than the traditional banks. So those alternative lenders are out there. It's called ABL lending and factoring. And I know rates are higher, but then again, our government's, almost brought rates to zero. So at least the factoring ABL rates won't be so bad this go around.
So as you can see here, you see the red in the next 30 to 90 days, 45% are going to need a cash injection, nearly 20% in the next 30 days, and only 14% that they don't. So obviously you need a cash injection. There are 2 ways to do that. One is, you find a bridge loan or some sort of capital. The other one is you figure out a way to retain your sales to the extent possible or get new clients. So Kelly, what steps should clients take right now to either keep their current clients or generate new prospects in this market?
Yeah, thank you, Robert. So that's as important, and that's really the key to your longer term business health, right? So client retention, assessing your current clients, really sit down, list your current clients and assess a risk rating to those clients by how likely they are to be affected in their own businesses and how likely they are to not be able to pay. And then reach out to the contacts you have with those companies, have conversations with them, find out what they're doing differently, find out how their initiatives have changed. We're going from a business environment that was roaring and everybody expected really great things for this year, and every company had some initiatives around, how to keep that business growth engine going. Now they're going to have to sit down on an individual basis and reassess that. So you want to be in tune with what they're thinking and what they're doing differently, and then uncover ways to continue to help them. So the clients that have the biggest value to you are the clients that you really want to try to do things differently for, and let them know you're their partner throughout this crisis. And then if they have outstanding payments with you, Ask them directly, you know, what their payment plans are. Ask them how they plan to handle outstanding payments. And if you need to and can extend them longer terms and you feel like their businesses are viable enough to survive, that would be a really great offering to be able to make. It would grow, it will gain you, you know, some loyalty and some longer term engagement from those clients. Now, equally important is keeping track of your competition. So who's weak in the competitive set around your business and monitoring what they're doing to respond, because as you see competition fall out, those are going to open up new opportunities for you and your team. So sit down with your sales team, assess the competition, start to develop your target lists, and really focus on where you think you're going to be able to find new business from competition in potentially new industries. Look at the industries that are most likely to come out of the recession and recovery fastest, and see, you know, have a real focused approach on how to do immediate outreach to those particular industries. And then you may even want to consider developing a plan to expand your reach geographically. So this is really going to open up a lot of opportunities for the businesses that can get through this and persevere and have a strong sales team in place to hit the ground running on the other side, in addition to the cash flow.
And you know, that's great feedback. I know that, you know, in our case, we're doing more Zoom meetings. Even after this, I have a Zoom lunch meeting. So my counterpart is going to have lunch. I want to have lunch, and so it's going to be a virtual lunch. So we're about trying to get creative, right? Joe, we're talking about, you know, connecting with clients and customers, and everybody's sending COVID-19 information. Should we be sending COVID-19 information to our customers in spite of all the information they're getting? How should we do that, and should we?
Yeah, sure. So if your business has not sent a COVID-19 email, you're in the minority. I know I get at least a dozen emails a day. And there seems to be 3 tiers of communications that brands are sending out at this point. The first one is your service-related message, right? And this is the most important and most helpful. It's the ones that the communication informs your customers about a change in service, maybe an updated policy, or a protective measure that the brand has taken to ensure the safety of customers. And if your business falls in this category, then yes, I think you should be sending out an email. Again, in terms of frequency, only when there is a significant update. Don't send 4 or 5, you know, a week. The next category that I tend to see is the brand friend, right? And these are emails that come out from brands where they may have developed a line of communication with, you know, their customers over the years, and it's more of a, hey, warm feeling, we're in this together, we can help each other. And you know, I'm not keen on those type of communications. It really depends on the type of brand and the personality, whether you want to send those out or not. And the last bucket is really those emails that come out that are completely random, right? It's the company that you purchased something from, or you signed up for a white paper 5 years ago, and all of a sudden you're getting an email saying, hey, we're here for you. You know, in that case, you definitely don't want to send those types of emails out. But if you are going to send one out, I think if you fall in that first group, my tips are be clear and deliberate in your communication strategy. You want to be helpful, you want to be relevant and informative. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? So take a look at your email list. You want to segment your emails. Don't send to everyone, right? If you have an email list of 10,000 names and 3,000 of those emails have never engaged with you over the past 4 years, segment them out of your communications. The other 2 things to think about when it comes to email is take a look at your automated email drip campaigns that you have set up. You may want to pause those, or maybe even adjust the messaging and the visuals, because there may be some communications in there that may not be appropriate for this time. And then look at other channels like social media, your Google My Business account, your website, to communicate with your customers about updates and changes to service.
Thank you. And I think that, guys, I think he may be talking about me when he said, well, if you have like 10,000, you know, database, you don't have to email everybody, or maybe a couple thousand have really responded to you. So I hear you, Joe. I hear you. I think I'm learning my lesson. I appreciate it, though. Russell,
No worries.
let's go back to you. Talk to us a little bit about, you know, receivables and collections. You know, what should we be doing with those, and what should we be doing going forward?
So a few thoughts on, you know, along with cash flow, this ties into that on the customer collection side and billing practices and just, you know, maybe potential new customers during this period as you reach out to new segments that you might not have considered in the past. But just remain optimistic. You know, these still are your customers. We're going to maintain a good relationship. But don't forget the term, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You know, you got to stay on your customers, call them regularly, be understanding, but work your collections. And so the squeaky wheel gets the grease, that old saying. And it's very true when you're in accounting, and we run a lot of accounting, you know, back offices, and, you know, you have to deal with the people that are pestering the most. So keep that in mind. And cash is king. You know, when you're working with those customers, consider taking credit cards if you weren't taking credit cards before. Consider installment payments. Throw them options if they're struggling. Don't give up. Get creative. You know, and in these times, you know, you might consider going to customers that weren't in your normal platform. You know, different segments, different industries. You might be able to obtain some customers in different areas that you weren't before because your competition's hurting. Might not even, their doors might not even be open right now. So again, but if you do, don't forget with any new customers or as you're bringing on customers on board, you know, make sure you're looking at their credit. You know, don't just bring on new customers for the sake of creating more problems. You got to look at your customer onboarding policies and credit checking. You know, back in 2008, we talked, if you remember, they were doing personal guarantees. A lot of the contractors were making, the suppliers were making the contractors sign personal guarantees to get their supplies. So it's, times are changing. You might have to think about, you know, harshening your collection ability. And lastly, kind of on, you know, review your billing and your billing practices and your current contracts. You know, might want to consider taking deposits, starting to do progress payments, even though that might be a little hard for some industries. It might be a time for that. So the sooner you can bring in cash, the better, even if you have to do it in increments. These are challenging times, and you have to think outside of the box compared to how you've been running the business. So keep all those ideas and tips and tricks in mind so that, you know, you can bring in cash quicker and improve cash flow.
I was on that peer group, also, when you talked about this earlier in the week, and I took a lot of notes. Certainly the concept of taking, even if it's a small deposit, reminds me of, you go to a coffee shop and you get served coffee, even if the waiter or waitress doesn't come back in 20 minutes, but you feel that you're invested in the relationship. So that would be interesting.
Keep your customers happy, and remember they're going to try and be there on the flip side. So.
Yeah, and so, but so you work the marketing, you work the sales, you know, you work the cash flow, and you still have to let go of some personnel, and I want to talk a little bit about that, and I want to put up a slide to talk about it. If you have to let go of people, I want you to first think about this piece of legislation that is affecting how you look at paid sick leave and medical leave options. There may be more coming this week, but we don't know it yet. It's really up to Congress to decide what comes up next in terms of you know, different ways to alleviate individuals and organizations in terms of what's going on. But this is important, right? The Families First Coronavirus Response Act. It gives you some options. If you're under 500 employees, you even have a poster that came out yesterday, and I'm unsure to share with GrowFL so y'all can have it, that you have to post for your employees. There are exceptions for employers under 50 employees for this act, especially if you feel that affording these leads can be detrimental to the you know, ongoing existence of your organization, whether it is you can't afford it or you have emergency personnel, first responders, etc. It's effective April 1st, so you can't do it until next week. To offer this kind of leave, whether it's medical leave or sick leave, you have to have somebody who's been working at least 30 days. Full-time and part-time workers are included, not 1099s, which you know, that has been, I think, a bit frustrating to me and many other people. I don't know that Congress is quite realizing the impact and the size of the gig economy in this country. So a lot of the support that you're seeing are for traditional W-2 employees. So hopefully we'll see something a little bit better for 1099 employees. Now, whatever you pay is going to be reimbursed through a payroll tax credit. And according to the act, if you pay in excess of your payroll tax credit, the government is still going to pay you the difference. You're not going to lose it. So what does it entail? Very quickly, sick leave up to 2 weeks of regular rate, paid sick leave if you are ill or quarantined or waiting for a diagnosis, and that is up to $511 a day. But it's really, it's not that you're going to get 511 bucks, is your rate, whatever it is, your rate that you're getting paid. So whether it is 9 bucks or 10 bucks an hour or 12 bucks an hour, doesn't mean that if you're making, 10 bucks an hour, you're going to get 500 a day. Then up to 2 weeks of paid sick leave at 2/3 the rate if you're caring for somebody, right? But not just caring because they may be ill. Imagine that your child care center is closed because of COVID-19. So you have to care for a child. So that is also COVID-19 related. And that is up to 200 a day, 2,000 total. In addition to that, you can get an extra 10 weeks of paid leave at 2/3 the rate for dealing with childcare, right? And that's another 10,000. So a total of basically 12 weeks of support that you can provide your employees. The first 30 days is going to be what they call a non-enforcement period, which means so long as you're acting in goodwill, if you make a mistake, they're not going to go hard on you. However, the unfortunate part, and understandable as well, is that regulations do not come out until April. So to get this, it's just a reality of it. So you begin implementing this on April 1st next week, but the actual regulations will not come out until sometime in April. And I know that it's very tough to get them together. There's a lot of people working hard to make this happen. But generally speaking, just keep this as an option. One thing that you may want to do if you think that you have to, let some personnel go for financial reasons, ask them, are you caring for a child, or you have to care for a child because, the child care center was closed? That gives them an opportunity. Maybe those people can go on leave first and you afford them this, which you're going to get reimbursed for. So that might be an angle versus kind of blanket letting go of everybody. So those are things that you want to strategize and sort of, is not business as usual. You want to see what the government is coming up with and understand it clearly, get some solid advice and see what you can do next when it comes to that so that you can help your people as most as you can. With that said, Keith, I want to go back to you and I want to ask you, what are some of the nightmare situations that you may be seeing with remote workers?
Well, we've kind of talked about using your home PCs already. So what about if you bring a work device home? So laptops aren't, really a big deal. You can connect to wireless and all, but a lot of our clients are sending employees home with their desktops. So they get home, they turn it on and think they're going to connect to the internet. So right. Majority of these systems do not have wireless adapters in them. So they have a couple of choices. They have to put the machine close to where their cable modem or the router is to connect it into it with a Ethernet cable, or maybe purchase a long Ethernet cable if it's going to go to a different room and just run the cable through the house. You can also purchase a USB wireless adapter to install onto the device so they can connect to the wireless and have it wherever they want to in the home, as long as they have a signal. But then we also ran into a lot of issues where they took the work PC home, but not the monitors. And then they get home and the monitor connections are not the same: HDMI, DisplayPort, PVI. There's so many different types. So then they're scrambling to find adapters or have to go back to the office and get their work monitors. So just kind of think of all of these scenarios before you send people home, if you haven't already ran into these issues. We've also ran into issues where a lot of clients have terminal servers, remote desktop servers, another name for it, Typically, they were purchased and used for like a Salesforce or just, you know, when a few employees were working remotely. So they were not designed to have 100% of their team working from the terminal server. So they were not, you know, they might have been a single processor, dual processor. So now when you have 100% trying to log into it, it eats up those resources quick. And so everybody starts lagging and getting disconnected. So some options for that is, you know, of course you can upgrade the hardware, but that's really tough. And when you're in lockdown and trying to order parts and get people to install them. You can also kind of do a hybrid workforce where some use the terminal server and some might use the go to my PC temporarily. You can have people, you know, log in different shifts, morning, afternoon, critical like payroll, you know, where they can get done in billing. You can also do stuff like spin up another terminal server in the cloud with Azure and create a tunnel back to your office. And so you use the cloud resources and then have the connection back. So there's several solutions you can do, but just be aware if you do have one of these terminal servers, you're going to try to have everybody work from home from them. The other thing we're seeing is bandwidth limitations. It seems to have gotten a little bit better this week. Last week we were getting a lot of calls, disconnects, or just slow performance. I think with all the children and parents and all being home and streaming, every single one of them streaming Netflix and Hulu, and it's just putting an overload on the ISPs. So just kind of be aware if your team complains about that and can't get the work done that they need to. Same goes with cloud conference systems. I've seen a few people message here that their audio is not working. I'm hoping it's not due to that, but I have been on 4 or 5 different conference meetings in the past couple of weeks, and I know the free ones are having extreme issues. So highly recommend using a paid version. Zoom is probably one of the best ones you can use. Phone systems, getting a lot of requests for, you know, think about your phone lines, how they're going to be routed to a cell phone, to an answering service. If you have a VoIP system where your voicemails go to email, put a message on there, then leave a message and have it go to a group mailbox maybe that a group of people can check and forward and then return calls is a good solution. If you do have like a VoIP phone system and stuff, they have soft phones available that you can use with headsets on your computers, laptops, and transfer calls throughout your team remotely. It's a pretty good option. And a couple of last things. We're seeing extreme shortages in inventory for laptops, headsets, anything dealing with wireless. It's really hard to find anything dealing with the remote workforce. So hopefully these will get restocked in the next few weeks, but be patient with your IT providers if they can't get you some products. But we're doing the best we can. And lastly, I know you talked about, you know, kind of keeping the morale with remote workforce. You had some virtual lunches and stuff, but I was on a board meeting video conference yesterday, and somebody mentioned they had their entire team do a virtual happy hour after work. So I thought that was a really good idea. So we're going to implement it and probably do it next week here, and just try to, you know, do something outside of work, trivia or do something like that, and have fun virtually.
That's cool. One of my consultants has a Zoom birthday party today from 5 to 7:30 p.m. and I plan to be there.
Very cool.
Very, very cool stuff. And also when you're thinking of remote workers, technology aside, I want people to consider some things. One, you know, the way in which you communicate is going to be really, really important. You're not there with them all the time. Many of you have remote workers already, so this may not be an issue to you. But if you have employees that are now new into remote working, you want to give them some good advice in terms of creating an environment where they can work from home, free from distraction, and of course, you know, the things that Keith talks about from the technology side, particularly cybersecurity. Also, keep in mind, if you have hourly paid employees, don't message them 24/7. You may incur on liability in terms of overtime and things like that. So you want to be really, really careful how you work with remote workers when it comes to that. Liabilities will be there. Everybody now is helping one another. But when this is over, if you did that and you have an employee that says, wait a minute, I was working 24/7 getting, you know, messages, you know, in the evening and Sundays, you may end up with a hefty bill from wage and hour for overtime pay. Kelly, we got, 9 months to go. How do we change our sales plan? What are we going to do different from now on to get the sales going?
Yeah, so Robert, I think everybody's obviously very concerned with the here and now and how to get through this.
Yeah.
If you do have a sales plan, then you really need to think about the second quarter, probably not having a lot of that sales activity you were anticipating. And then your third quarter and fourth quarter, there will be a ramp up. So going back and revising your numbers with the considerations of where you can pick up additional business going forward once we come through the recovery. Your sales plan is really an active living document that'll change as you learn more, but it at least will be something that you and your team can use to help you understand what kind of cash flow needs you have, cash flow issues you're going to have going forward, and then when you'll start to see the health of your company resume. So, the sales plan is really your 3-year forecast. Start with your first year, and then, at this point, revisit second and third as we learn more. It's having your targeted list of prospects and a deep understanding of, where you think there are additional opportunities that are going to come out of this downturn. And then even updating your messaging. So making sure you have a succinct value proposition that resonates with the people that will be learning about you new for the first time and how that sets you apart. And then your outreach messaging, your emails, and your phone call messaging, making sure that that all talks about what you do to solve a problem for your client, because that's what they're going to be looking for, someone to help them solve those problems. So I know sales is not first and foremost for everybody right now, because everybody's thinking about how to get through this with cash flow and financial help and even probably some legal help and looking at restructured agreements. But it will be important to you when you come out of the crisis to make sure you do have an agreed upon written approach that you can share with your sales team so everybody can hit the ground running on the other side.
Yeah, but you're so spot on. I mean, as CEOs, owners, leaders, managers, VPs, etc., we need to deal with the here and now, but it's also a responsibility to look at what's next. And I think your points are so great in terms of how do we revisit our sales plan and then where are opportunities. We can't just say, okay, these were our goals, and now we took a 2-month break, and then we tell our salespeople, you still gotta do the same thing and get the same results, right?
That's right. And it's another way to keep your people motivated. So the people that you do choose to keep and you're able to keep, it's a way to keep them motivated and engaged, and gives them confidence that your business is going to be viable going forward. So communicate, get your team involved, sit down, brainstorm, use their thoughts and input on, what you think will happen in the future and what your team is prepared to do. And if you make it a collaborative effort, it keeps them engaged and motivated, and really everybody just wants to help and contribute right now. So if you can't reach out to your customers, then maybe do some training internally, do some additional unique value proposition work internally, so you're prepared when everything does get back up and going.
All right, thank you. And I want to go back to Joe because we talked about selling, but also Joe is looking at it from, all right, marketing, the world is changing. We may be going a little bit more digital. And I want to put up a slide that you gave us. And can you walk us through this? And what are you talking about here? Why do we need to look at this now? What is the value?
Yeah, sure. So, nowadays I can't stress how important your website is. It's your essentially your digital storefront, right? It's home base. It's the place that all your content leads to. And, just like a brick and mortar store, if you had, if your customers walked in, your floors were dirty, your merchandise was hard to find and scattered all about, and your employees were rude, you probably wouldn't come back. So when it comes to your website, you need to make sure the experience is perfect. So your navigation your contact forms, any types of lead magnets, and your page content. It has to be relevant. It has to, it has to essentially be relevant to the user coming there. And I'd say, you want to take a look at 4 key areas to optimize your website. One is take a look at technology options. So look for new ways for customers and prospects to engage with you, right? It could be live chat, it could be conversational forums, virtual demos, but give your customer a different way to contact you versus just a regular form or a phone number. You want to optimize your site for speed. Slow sites kill conversions. Every 1 second delay essentially is a 7% reduction in conversion. And you want to aim to get your page to load in 3 seconds or less. It's also important for SEO. It's one of several ranking signals for Google, so making sure that your page loads quickly is important. And then take a look at your traffic mix, right? You want to optimize for the mobile user, but what's interesting now is that we're seeing more shift to desktop. Now, typically your B2B traffic tends to be more desktop driven and your B2C more mobile. However, with people being less mobile, right, out and about, we are seeing a decrease in mobile search traffic. In fact, in March, mobile search traffic went down about 25%. So these are the types of things you want to look at when you're optimizing your website. Take a look at where are the majority of your users, how are they accessing your site, right, a mobile or a desktop, and adjust the experience likewise. And also take a look at your pay-per-click campaigns. If there's less mobile traffic, you probably want to adjust or shift your dollars from mobile to desktop. And then lastly, and this is one that I can't stress enough, is make sure that you have Google Analytics on your website. It's free. One of the most common things I see is a company that has a website that either does not have the Google Analytics tag, or they have it implemented correctly and they have multiple tags on there and it's just giving you bad data, right? You'll have inflated page views, you'll have a bounce rate that's not accurate. So one of the tips you can use to see if it is implemented correctly is if you have a Chrome browser, download the Google Tag Assistant, and once you download it, go to your website, and if you see a happy face on that extension, that means your Google tag is implemented correctly, but if you see a red frowny face, that means there's something wrong there, and it's a pretty intuitive tool. It tells you how to fix it. So you want to leverage data to guide your decisions and how you optimize your website. You don't want to make assumptions from your gut. So, make sure you have an alert on your website, make sure it's implemented correctly, and then take some time to look at the story that you're getting from your website data and then optimize it based on that.
That's good information, and we're getting to the hour. There have been some questions which we're going to, some of them we've answered, some of them we're just gonna, provide you an email response after this. We can sit a few more minutes to some of you that can't stay for closing remarks, but before we do that, Joe is talking about technology, websites, whatnot, and it gets me thinking, Keith, you're getting a lot of messaging. What are some of the potential scams that may arise or that you're seeing already regarding COVID-19 that we need to be wary
of? One of the largest scams we're seeing are the fake COVID-19 websites and the maps, because so many people are interested. And they look just like the CDC websites. And so please tell your employees not to, go to these sites and click on it. Go directly to the CDC website or some other legitimate site. We even recommend maybe making a list of the ones that you'll permit if they want information on it. We also see fake ones with test kits and also cures. All of these are either trying to phish information or actually put malware on your system and put keyloggers or other type of utilities on there that hackers can use to take remote control over their systems. And once they do that, they'll get into your network as well. We're seeing a lot of fake smartphone apps, same type of stuff, mainly with the maps and stuff. So please tell them not to download any apps, any new apps on their phones during this time. Email scams. We've had 2 clients in the last, within a week, both been hit by fake scams. They're looking more and more legit. One was a quote and another one was something else, and they ended up putting their credentials in. So we can preach it every day, and they still fool people. So please remind your team probably weekly on this. Also with Office 365 and other apps, once again, please enable the multi-factor authentication. You'll see it as MFA. Same thing goes with your banking and finance sites and all, especially now if they're using home systems. So it should be pinging them if they're trying to log in from home and having to do the multi-factor authentication. So that way, even if your credentials are stolen, the hacker cannot use them because they'll have to use that second form of authentication. Set up notifications on your banking and credit card sites for every transaction that's going in and out. I would track it daily. And lastly, keep your employees updated. And so if you see a good article that's related to your industry and stuff, share it with the team. If you see scams coming out, just share it with everybody on your team. It's really critical to stay informed, and we try to do that every single day on our social media and keep our clients updated.
Well, thank you. And before we go, there's one poll that we're going to launch before, and it has to do with laying off people. So I'm going to launch it if everybody can respond to that. I think we're also curious as to what is going on. Are we laying off? Are we not laying off people? And as we do that, we can just 1 minute parting remarks from everybody, and I'll start very quickly. Layoffs concern me. I think that it's a big issue that we are seeing, and look at GrowFL. We're going to be sharing through them a series of free webinars that we're going to be doing for laid off workers beginning week after next. So that's my parting remark. We want to be able to help the community together with GrowFL. So that's going to be happening out there. Kelly?
Yeah, so I would say if you need specific questions answered and we haven't been able to do that for you, we will have follow-up, but also know that on GrowFL's website, they have a COVID-19 resource center, and you can schedule an appointment, a free appointment with any specialist, any GrowFL advisory board member who can help you answer those questions specifically. We are all on board and available and ready to help, and we want to help you in a way that's really going to specifically benefit you. So there's a sign up, it's really easy to do, and you're assigned to the appropriate person who can then help you address that question on a customized basis for your business.
Thank you, Kelly. Russell?
It's kind of interesting to see the poll results. It looks like more than not are not planning to do layoffs. I spent the better part of my week last week organizing that with clients, so it's encouraging at least.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's all about the cash flow. You gotta, do your projections, get ahead of the curve. Don't wait last minute to put that together. So, more than happy to help anybody as well that needs help with anything, in terms of planning and working with the banks. So.
Thank you, Keith.
I don't have much more to comment.
You mean you scared us enough?
Not enough. I could go on for 2 hours. So.
Well, you can tell us at least of 2 clients that you didn't scare them enough, it seems.
Yeah. But I appreciate being a part of this panel, and you got to stay in contact with your team, and because they're at home and letting kids on and doing this stuff. We're very worried with all of our clients right now. So you got to go above and beyond taking care of them and making sure they're secure. That's the worst thing we want is a bunch of hackers in our systems.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, I would just say is from a marketing perspective, let the data guide your decisions. And, again, if you can afford to, now is a great time to invest in marketing in certain channels because there are a lot of other companies that are not. And some of your big brands from Amazon to your large, brands out there are pulling back on their advertising spend. So, again, you don't want to break the bank, but if there's an opportunity to spend some funds in marketing, now it's probably the best time.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for being here. Hannah and GrowFL, for giving us the opportunity to share, our knowledge, our experience with everybody that attended today. Everybody, please stay safe. Social distancing is very, very key right now, and I look forward to having all of us talk to all of you again in the very near future. So thank you, and have a great rest of the day.